Well, today we're talking about voluntourism, and that's combining volunteering and vacationing. And we have a special guest on with us, Lisa Dietlin, who is president and CEO of Lisa Dietlin and Associates Incorporated. She's also a philanthropic agent, one of the country's foremost authorities on entrepreneurial giving. She's also the author of 5 books, including Transformational Philanthropy, Entrepreneurs and Nonprofits, published in 2009, and Making a Difference, 365 Tips, Ideas, and Stories to Change Your World, that was published in 2010. Hello, Lisa, and welcome to The Traveling Eye.
Breathe, girl, breathe.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have my own pet peeves about traveling.
What is that?
The overhead bin storage. You know, if it weighs more than you, you shouldn't be taking it on a plane.
Amen.
And if you have to turn it sideways for it to fit, it's too big.
Oh, my goodness. I enjoy the show. You know, when I get to my seat, and, you know, the people who don't travel and they're stunned, they're like, isn't this my overhead bin? And the flight attendant saying, no, it's shared. And, oh, my gosh, there's so many horror stories. But my biggest one is, you know, if it weighs more than you and you can't get it in the overhead bin, you probably shouldn't be bringing it on the plane. Check it.
I agree with you, 100%.
Oh, my goodness. It's a show.
Now, Lisa, you have, your credentials are very, very long and vast. And so I just want to establish that as far as your history in philanthropic, in the philanthropic world.
Well, you know, I love, one of the things I tell people, I love asking people for money, and I still have friends. They don't run away when they see me coming. You know, I started doing political fundraising in the first part of my career for about 9 years, and then did public higher education. I worked for universities and colleges and helped raise money for scholarships and faculty gifts and lecture series and all of those wonderful programs that augment a student's education. But along the way, you know, friends kept saying to me, can you help me? Can you help me? And so I did. I started helping all different types of nonprofit organizations, you know, from the Alzheimer's Association to the Girl Scouts to the Library of Congress to the Grammys to food banks, Feeding America, and just have a ball, because what I think is that philanthropy is just a real grown-up word for sharing. You know, for us each taking care of each other and sharing what we have and helping each other. So when you break it down like that, who wouldn't want to be in philanthropy and asking people to do good in the world?
Well, you know, that brings us around to our topic today. And these are some wonderful words. Can you tell us what is voluntourism or volunteering?
Absolutely, I can tell you what that is. It's, for lack of a better phrase, a mini Peace Corps experience. You know, when then Senator John Kennedy, who became our president, was in the U.S. Senate, he started thinking about this in the 50s, along with some others, about the idea of people going to a third world or developing country and helping to make a difference, helping to give back, helping to build that community's infrastructure, a well, you know, clean sanitation, housing, whatever they needed. And, you know, of course, when the Peace Corps was formed, it became a 2-year commitment. Well, most of us want to give back, but we probably can't put our lives on hold for 2 years. So volunteering or voluntourism is a way to go to a third world or developing country or in places in the United States that might need help and spend as little as a week to 12 weeks making a difference, improving that community, being immersed in the culture, and really transforming lives.
You know, I remember when the Peace Corps, well, I was told, you know, since I'm in the 40 age group, right? When the Peace Corps, a lot of people that I knew signed up to go out to the Peace Corps.
Yeah, and I had never connected the dots, really, as I've been in the travel industry for quite some time. We won't mention how many years, but and of course, know about voluntourism and volunteering, but had never connected the dots that the start of that was through the Peace Corps. So,
right. It's for those of us who travel and, you know, while we're sitting in the poolside, you know, because we did find a chair, we did take it saying, gosh, maybe I could do something here. And, you know, we get to that country and think, sometimes it's countries that have a vibrant tourism business, but you also see the poverty, and you're thinking, how could I help? Where could I make a difference? And this is a way to combine both your volunteering and your vacation.
Well, let's. We only have a little bit of time before we go to break, but we're going to continue on with Lisa in the next break, in the next segment coming up. But quickly tell us about the difference between a do-good vacation versus a volunteering vacation.
It's a great question. Volunteering is, as I said, you're immersed in the culture. You're going with a group usually. There's a program. You're going to build this well. You're going to improve something in that community. You're going to live in the community. You might have a host family. You're going to be immersed in the culture. A do-good vacation is that you're bicycling across Ireland and you're raising money for an organization back in, the United States. So you and some friends have decided to bicycle around Ireland and see the castles, and for every mile you bike or every castle you get to, people pledge a certain amount of money. So it's not being immersed in the culture, but it's using a vacation as a way to say, okay, while I'm vacationing and having all this fun, I'm also going to be raising money. I'm going to be doing good. So you're not immersed in the culture. You're not staying with a host family, but you're using, maybe you're walking across Spain, maybe you're, going to be sailing around Australia, and you're thinking, okay, for every mile I sail or every port I get to, so many dollars are going to be raised for a cause that I care about.
Well, that's good. And when we come back, we're going to talk more to Lisa Dietlin about wonderful voluntourism, volunteering, and do-good vacations. You're listening to The Traveling Eye. I'm Bonnie DeShawn.
And I'm Javon Harley on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Live from the WVON newsroom, here's our news now.
It's 70 degrees at 11:30. I'm Domati Pungo. Here's what's happening. The plan to put a casino in downtown Chicago is dead for now. State Representative Bob Rita says he didn't have time to build support for the plan, so he didn't call it for a vote this session. He's planning to bring it this fall during veto session. He says he still has a number of issues to work through before then, including getting Governor Quinn and Mayor Rahm Emanuel on board. A special ed teacher is among those killed in a string of recent shootings. Betty Howard was hit in the head by a stray bullet in Chatham yesterday. No one has been arrested for the crime. Community activists are offering a $2,000 reward for information leading to the person who pulled the trigger. Betty Howard taught at Gwendolyn Brooks College Prep. The principal has released a statement saying that her love for students was second to none. The 911 call made from the North Carolina home where Dr. Maya Angelou passed away at age 86 has been released. An emergency dispatcher has actually been suspended in connection to that phone call. About 5 minutes into the 911 call, the voice of a dispatcher can be heard in the background making disparaging comments about Oprah Winfrey, one of Maya Angelou's closest friends. A supervisor later heard those comments, and the dispatcher was put on a paid suspension. The dispatcher has since apologized and says he regrets the timing of his conversation. And the Chicago Urban League has sponsored a 2-week trip to China for 20 Chicago high schoolers. As ABC7 reports, President and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, Andrea Zopp, says this gives the kids a unique experience.
We're doing the trip because we believe it's a real opportunity, an educational opportunity for our young people. And the kids in this program are kids who most likely would not otherwise have this opportunity.
The China-U.S. Exchange Foundation is covering some of the costs as well associated with bringing the young men and women to China free of charge. United Airlines is also covering their airfare. That's a look at our news now on 1690 WVON. It's 11:32. I'm Domati Pungo. Traffic and weather up next.
Join the Harold Washington Cultural Center as we celebrate June Black Music Month with an encore performance of Cooley High the Musical live Saturday, June 28th and Sunday, June 29th. For tickets, log on to BroadwayandBronzeville.com or call 773-373-1900. Enter code WVON for a special community discount. This is one show you don't want to miss. Cooley High live at the Harold Washington Cultural Center, presented by Ed Ford Jewelers. See you at the theater.
This traffic report is brought to you by Triton College. Do you have collegeability? At Triton College, you do. Affordability, transferability, employability, enjoyability. It's all within your reach. Find your success at www.triton.edu/collegeability.
WVON traffic and weather now.
An update from the Loop. Lake Street will be closed in both directions due to the Millennium Art Festival. That closure lasts until Sunday night, June 1st. Meanwhile, on the roadways, Bishop Ford slows inbound from Cottage Grove onto the Ryan Merge. 8094 to the Ryan, about 16 minutes. Traveling inbound on the Ryan, 20 minutes. 95th to downtown, 17 on the reverse. The Stevenson, 36 minutes in. On the outbound side, traffic is moving freely at 34 minutes from Lakeshore Drive. Kennedy, heavy inbound still between Kimball and Jackson. The local lanes take you 28 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, Express are 16. And on the outbound side, delayed as well between Jackson and Division. Downtown to O'Hare, about 24 minutes. Sunny out there today with a high near 80 degrees, low 54, high 84 tomorrow, and it gets up to 90 by Sunday with a chance of rain. Right now it's 66 in Edgewater, 64 in the South Loop, and 75 here at the Talk of Chicago. That's our traffic and weather now. I'm Doma T. Pungo on 1690 WVON.
Did you know there's a message board connected to the WVON iHeartRadio player? Go to the new WVON.com, listen live, and share your comments with the world.
It's the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. You're listening to The Traveling Eye. I'm Bonnie DeShawn.
And I'm Javon Harley. Make sure you check out our website. It's thetravelingeye.com. There you can friend and like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. And you can join our travel club so that you can travel with us, like to Punta Cana later on. We're going to tell you about it. But right now, it's time for Bonnie's Eye On.
You know, I was visiting with some friends last weekend, and the question came up, what do you get out of traveling? Well, so many things came to my mind, and one word jumped out at me: memories. I invite you to think back to when you were a child and taking trips with your family. I remember piling into my aunt's 63 Chevy with Daddy riding shotgun with the water jug sitting on the floor at his feet, me in the middle of the front seat. Seatbelts weren't used back in those days, and there wasn't any air conditioning. Mama, my sister, and my brother in the back with the fried chicken, light bread, and pound cake, heading down to St. Louis to visit relatives for Labor Day. The songs we sang, the stories told, and watching the world go by. Great memories for those yearly trips bring a smile to my face. Now, I travel all over the world making new memories, but those old ones were the ones that put the travel spark in me. So if you haven't traveled in a while, take the time to step out and make memories with your children and create some new ones for yourself. This has been Bonnie's Eye On.
Well, you know, it's all about memories, and those are the things that people can't take away from you.
Exactly.
And it's really not about the how much money you have or spend. It's really about collecting those memories.
Exactly.
And so today we're talking about voluntourism, volunteering and vacationing at the same time. And on the phone with us is Lisa Dietlin, President and CEO of Lisa Dietlin and Associates, who is a philanthropic agent. Well, welcome back to the Traveling Eye, Lisa.
Well, happy to be here.
Well, great. Now, we kind of established what voluntourism or volunteering is, and I think one of the big questions that people may be asking is, what is that ratio of time spent between vacationing and volunteering?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, you have to realize when you do this, you will be working. There will be times when you're not lounging and, you know, doing what you want to do, but it's what you've signed up to do. Just like when you sign up in the United States to volunteer, even if you're in a distant land, that's going to happen. It's usually most programs, like the granddaddy of them all, Global Volunteers, it's you spend 5 days a week, 8 hours a day working. And it could be that you're, you know, restoring a temple, you know, painting a fresco, you know, helping to restore something historic, or cleaning up an ecological system that might be threatened because of a chemical leak or what have you, a forest preserve you could be working in. So there's many things that you could do, but you are going to work, most of them from 8 hours, and then you have the evenings off and weekends. Or you could be working morning and into the early afternoon if it's a warmer climate, and having the afternoon and the evening off. But in that situation, you'd probably be working every day. So you have to realize they do allow you some time, like if you're going to South Africa and you're going to, you know, be working, say, with the shoreline, there will be time to go to those vineyards and taste the wine from South Africa, but you do have to do a little work first.
And what about those that may be interested in sharing their professional skills or talents?
That's a great question. And, I always recommend to people when they're considering a volunteer vacation to take stock and do an assessment, find the right organization. And part of that is, what kind of work do you want to do? What do you exactly want to do? If you're an engineer, do you want to go and be an engineer? Do you want to dig a well? Do you want to put in a water system? Or do you want to learn something completely new? Like, I want to know how to restore paintings in an old church or an old castle or what have you. So you have to figure out for you, what do you really want to do? I'm a fundraiser. I always get put on the fundraising committee, and I'm like, hello, I'd like to be on a different committee. I know how to do this. So you have to figure out what you want to do and be very, very clear with the organization. Hopefully they're doing an audit and assessment and a questionnaire of your skill sets, but having those conversations. And in the end, whatever you end up doing, it will be making a difference in the lives of the people in which you are doing this activity in their community.
Well, Lisa, since you're volunteering to do something or anything like that, is there any way you can write this off your taxes or something?
There is, and I'm sure every listener's ears just perked up. There might be a few crashes on the Eisenhower. Wait a minute, I can take a vacation and get a tax deduction. You absolutely can. It depends on the country of origin and the tax code. So, because in the United States we do allow for charitable deductions still on our tax returns. It is possible here in the United States, but there are very, very strict guidelines. Things like the organization must be a bona fide 501c3. And I would caution listeners that if they're letting their fingers do the walking on the internet and they're searching for these type of experiences, just because someone's URL says .org doesn't mean it's a nonprofit, doesn't mean it has the designation by the IRS. Obviously it must be itemized. So many of us, I've seen statistics that say 70% of us do the easy form when we file our taxes. So you're not going to get the deduction if you're filing the easy form. You can't claim any expenses that have already been reimbursed by the organization. It can't be that it benefits your family. So if you're following your child on a trip and they're going on an archaeological dig and you're the chaperone, that's not allowed either. And you obviously have to keep really good records, but there is a way. Most of the time the flight can be deducted. Some of the costs associated with doing the work, you do have to pay to volunteer to go on these experiences so that, the things, the safety things, the housing, the food is in place when you get there.
Now, how do you connect with the proper organization? One, that it's a 501c3, and two, that it is a company that really, or an organization that really has a good program for voluntourism.
And reputable.
Well, I think you have to do some research. Just like if we were to say, okay, the three of us were going to go on an Alaskan cruise, we would have to start thinking. We'd have to start picking a time frame. We'd have to pick how long we want to be gone. Are we cruising? Are we flying into Anchorage or Juneau? So you have to do that sort of research when you're thinking about a volunteer vacation. There are four that I highly recommend to your listeners. Global Volunteers, as I said, is the oldest, and they work with organizations that exist like UNICEF
Lisa,
and others.
Lisa, I'm going to have to stop you for a minute because all of a sudden you sounded like you went underwater.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it better? Am I on that Alaskan cruise?
No.
I didn't move.
That sounds a little better now.
Yeah,
it sounds better. So keep going.
All right. So sorry about that, listeners. Global Volunteers, it works with UNICEF and other bona fide nonprofit organizations. We also have GlobalWare, which does 1 week experiences, which I highly recommend for younger people that want to put their foot in the water and test us out. We have Cross-Cultural Solutions, which is primarily geared toward high school students, and that's a great program. Most of these experiences are geared toward adults, not small children. And then there's United Planet, which has the vision of be the change in the world. And you can do anything from 1 week to 1 year there. But, we have smaller nonprofit organizations, too, that might have a founder that's, building schools somewhere that you might want to go on those trips. There's a couple organizations you can verify, websites that you can verify if the group you're looking at is a bona fide 501c3, and that would be, obviously Charity Navigator if it's national, GuideStar, Org is another organization, as well as the Better Business Bureau. They have a charitable component that a lot of folks aren't aware of, but that you can check with them too.
Okay. Now, if someone is a novice and they just want to get their feet wet, they don't want to jump into the deep end, not understanding or not knowing what's involved, what would you recommend for the novice to get started?
I would say start small. Don't bite off too much. You might look domestically at what is happening here in the United States. There are always summer programs affiliated with colleges and universities that, are looking for volunteers to go on archaeological digs or to study, wetlands or bird migration patterns. I worked at a university that looked for volunteers on this wolf-moose study on Isle Royal for people to actually monitor the wolf and the moose movement. And so there's a lot of things locally that you could stick your toe in the water, that you could maybe go to Montana and work on a battlefield or on the restoration of, original pioneer town and see how that works for you without throwing in the culture, the difference in the culture and the communication challenges you might have. But if you are going to take that leap and go international, do a little homework, maybe learn a little bit of the language and the customs and, a little bit more about the community you're going to be going to.
And I know that Habitat for Humanity, they have some programs that you can sign up for here in the United States as well.
That's an excellent way to start, too. And, we hear about them often with spring trips for college students that don't want to do the Fort Lauderdale or South Padre Island. But Habitat for Humanity is excellent, especially when there's been a natural disaster like what happened in Joplin, Missouri, or in Oklahoma, or even, post-Katrina. There's many individuals and families without homes, and Habitat for Humanity, as well as, organizations that Brad Pitt and others started about rebuilding homes, that you can go and, do a little travel, have a little fun, and as well as know you're making a difference.
Well, Lisa, okay, let's sum this up and let's give some great tips for people so they'll know what to do.
Well, I think I give maybe 3 or 4 top tips. One is pick the right organization. Do your homework. Just like when you go on a regular vacation, some people like the beach and some people like to be active all the time. So make sure you pick the right organization and know what you want to do. Investigate the organization then, as we've talked a little bit about. But also, you want to make sure that you're understanding what is going to be expected of you. If every day you have to haul lumber to the top of a mountain to build a school and you haven't perhaps exercised in 20 years, maybe you ought to adjust your expectations. So, pay attention if there's any warning signs. If you're seeing bad reviews online, you should be able to talk to people who've already experienced the volunteer vacation and what their experience was. But the last choice here is you should always expect, no matter what, have good customer service. This organization should. Many of us, I liken it to when we go into a restaurant, we have a bad meal. We might have a bad meal, but if the waitress and the host and the owner and the manager are very accommodating to us and apologetic or what have you, we leave saying, I'll try it again. So regardless of your ultimate experience, if it's not what you wanted, if the organization had really good customer service, that will make all the difference, and that should be seen when you're doing the planning. And when you volunteer, act like a pro. If you sign up for this, if you decide to do it, follow through. These folks are depending on you in these places to actually come through for the local residents. There is such great need in the world. And I always say the best feeling I have is at the end of the day when I put my head on the pillow and I ask myself the question, did I help someone today? I can say yes.
Well, great. Thank you so much. And if you want to get in touch with Lisa, you can do so at lmdietlin, that's DIETLIN.com. And Lisa has a new book that has just come out. What's the name of it again, real quick, Lisa?
The name is The Power of Three, How to Achieve Your Goals by simply doing 3 things a day.
And I need that. So
we both do.
It's on its way to you.
We've also posted some of these wonderful tips on our blog, thetravelingeye.blogspot.com, of Lisa's tips.
Okay, and when we come back, folks, thank you again, Lisa. When we come back, we're going to tell you about a trip to Punta Cana you can take with us. You're listening to The Traveling Eye. I'm Bonnie Deschamps.
And I'm Javon Harley on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
More news, more conversation. Up next on WVON.
Only a veteran or someone currently serving in the United States military truly understands what it means to serve. It is an honor, and we are honored to be remembered.
Partners in Community Building Incorporated remembers our veterans. Friday, June 6th, PICB will host the second Veterans Resource Fair on housing, employment opportunities, benefits, and legal assistance. This free Veterans Resource Fair is at Thornton Township Hall in South Holland. Veterans, get assistance with legal matters, housing, employment, and the benefits you deserve. Attend the Veterans Resource Fair Friday, June 6th at Thornton Township Hall, 333 East 162nd Street in South Holland, Illinois. Sponsored by Cisco Thornton Township and Supervisor Frank M. Zuccarelli, the Cook County Department of Veterans Affairs, and Partners in Community Building Incorporated. For information, call 312-756-7596, 312-756-7596. Visit PICBchicago.org.
This is Reverend Percy McCrae, Director of Pastoral Care at the Cancer Treatment Centers of America at Midwestern's Regional Medical Center and facilitator of the Our Journey of Hope program. Studies show that cancer will be the leading cause and killer of Americans in about 15 years. That means more people will die from cancer, but many more people will also be living with cancer. This is a huge challenge for African Americans, who are more likely to die from most forms of cancer than any other group. But the Our Journey of Hope program wants to change that. Join me, cancer experts, and distinguished guests such as Pastor John Hanna, Bishop Larry Trotter, and Pastor Clay Evans, Saturday, May 31st, for a free health awareness symposium called Our Journey of Hope Presents, Treating the Mind, Body, and Spirit. Remember, this is a free event open to the public, 10 a.m. to noon, right here at the WVON headquarters, 1000 East 87th Street in Chicago, and is sponsored by the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Please call Our Journey of Hope to register today at 888-399-8126. That's 888-399-8126.
Refreshments will be served. This traffic report is brought to you by Triton College. Your first steps to a successful career begin at Triton College. Triton College offers a quality, affordable education close to home that will put you on a path to your dream career. Success. Make a career of it. Visit them at www.triton.edu/success.
WVON traffic and weather now.
Bishop Ford about 16 minutes in, slow from Cottage Grove onto the Ryan Merge. If you're traveling on the Ryan, 95th to downtown, about 22 minutes, 15 coming back out. The Stevenson, 36 minutes in. Outbound Stevenson looks fine. On the Eisenhower, jam-packed from Ashland to the Circle interchange into that road work, leaving just one lane open. However, overall, not too bad. Thorndale to the old post office takes you 31 minutes. From Manheim, 18. If you're traveling on the Kennedy, still heavy traffic between Damon and Jackson Boulevard. O'Hare to downtown, 26 minutes in the local lanes. Express will take you about 12. On the outbound side, it's a 24-minute trip downtown to O'Hare. Sunny out there today with a high near 80 degrees, low of 54. High 84 tomorrow and gets up to 90 degrees by Sunday with a chance of rain. However, right now it's 66 in Wicker Park, 64 Bronzeville, and 75 here at the Talk of Chicago. That's a look at our traffic and weather now. I'm Doma T. Pungo, 1690 WVON.
They say there are 4 seasons in a year. Here in Chicago, we know there are only 2. Goodbye, winter. Hello, construction season. Get your traffic and weather 4 times an hour. Weekdays, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
It's the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. You're listening to The Traveling Eye. I'm Bonnie DeShawn.
And I'm Javon Harley.
And our website, thetravelingeye.com, will give you lots of information. As a matter of fact, if you go on our blog, you can see some great things that Javon has posted about Lisa Dietlin and the tips that she gave us today. You can also see some wonderful pictures and videos of our trips. And you can join our travel club. You really do want to do that. And we were laughing coming back in because went back to Javon's Travel Minute and the people with the lounge chairs, the chair hogs.
The chair hogs. And I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes I take matters into my own hands, and I've gotten into a few altercations because
like, you haven't been here in an hour, so we figured you weren't coming back.
And once I'm settled, I'm not moving. But if I've gone around a few times, like, they're not coming back. And it's only towels. I won't move someone's personal things.
Right.
But if it's just a towel, I will kind of move
Get it out the way.
Yeah.
It's like, they're not here.
And it's funny when they come back, they kind of look at you.
Say, okay, am I going to say something? What? Go, Sonia. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we want to tell you there's a big celebration that is coming up because, there's 100 years of commercial flight. I'm trying to segue into this, but I'm still looking at you going, because I've seen it happen, folks.
Well, I got into a really bad altercation one time in Cabo San Lucas. My husband he's like, what's happening here? When I looked up, the whole family was standing around me. But actually, in this case, it was the reverse, and they moved my personal things.
Oh no!
I said those are fighting words.
Right? Don't touch my stuff.
Anyway, so actually, what's happening in 2014 is 100 years of the commercial flight. 100 years.
Can you imagine the person that was on that very first flight and how they felt? I mean, they'd never flown before.
Right.
So it's like, oh, heck.
Or during that time, did they really envision what the commercial flight would have grown into today, what it's like today, and how far it has come? And it's now entrenched in our society, and it's such a regular part of our lives. But what's happening also is that there is a General Assembly of the International Air Transport Association. And so for those of you in the industry, you understand that means IATA, IATA, the International Air Transport Association, where they're holding their General Assembly in June in Doha, and they are talking about the future of aviation. And one of the biggest things they're talking about is safety and profitability. Now, safety, of course, this is in light of Malaysian Air Flight 370. And one, how does this happen today? And two, how do we prevent this from happening again? We should not lose an entire aircraft.
Right.
We just shouldn't do it. And the second thing, as I mentioned, with profitability, we may think that the airlines are hugely profitable, but consider this, Bonnie, that profits reached maybe $18.7 billion, and that's the highest profit ever in the history of civil aviation. However, the revenue is $745 billion in annual revenue. So that gives you a net profit of just 2.5%, which means that's very low.
They're not making any money.
They see some weaknesses in there, and this is why they have adapted this this ancillary fee and this kind of pay, the optional paying or bundling and all of these things that they can charge more, so that they can keep the prices low, which we've become conditioned and available for, and also stay profitable. Because understand this, if the airlines are not profitable, where are they going to spend money on safety?
Okay. Yeah, now that you put it that way, it makes a lot of sense.
So those are the two big topics for the General Assembly of the International Air Transport Association and celebrating the 100 years of commercial flights. So safety, security, and profitability, and how they're connected.
That is a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. Just like traveling with the Traveling Eye on a group trip to celebrate our anniversary and birthdays and all the good things in August in Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic.
And I can't wait. Time is fast approaching. Once again, I don't know where this year has come and gone.
I'm telling you.
But coming up August 20th through the 24th, we're going to be celebrating our 7th anniversary at the Paradisus Punta Cana in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. This is our second annual getaway, and amongst those celebrations are, of course, the Traveling Eye's anniversary celebration, Bonnie's birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I turned 42.
Our birthdays are pretty much 10 days apart. So last year, We celebrated my birthday. This year we're going over the time period of Bonnie's birthday. And of course, we're going to bring back the Wiggin' Out party because everyone loved it so much.
I went and pulled some of the pictures and did the YouTube from the Wiggin' Out party. And I looked at those pictures and had to just crack up with the guys wearing their wigs.
Oh,
it was wonderful.
It was. We did a photo show, put together a photo show of the Wiggin' Out party, and it was a blast. We had Rick James, we had Bob Marley, we had some afros. Yeah, we had Big Red.
James Brown.
I need a new persona for this one, so I will certainly work on that. But if you want to join us, call us at 312-856-1138, 312-856-1138, or you can go to our website, thetravelingeye.com.
And you really want to go because we really only have a few spots left.
Out of Chicago.
So we want to make sure that you go. Okay. Well, guys, I think we had a good show today, and we want to thank everyone who made our show possible. Sonia, who sat in for Ray today, you did a wonderful job, Sonia. Thank you. Our Howard Little, our video producer, our executive producer, Gene Harley, and of course, we could do none of this without all of you.
Remember, the world is a book, and those who do not travel read only a page. This is The Traveling Eye. I'm Javon Harley.
And I'm Bonnie DeShong on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON. Welcome back to The Traveling Eye on HUR Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141. I'm Bonnie DeShong.
And I'm Javon Harley.
And we invite you to our website, thetravelingeye.com. Once you get there, you can read our blogs. You can view some great videos of our travels. You can friend us and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you must join our travel club. And now it's time for Javon's Travel Minute.
Well, today I'm sounding off on poor travel etiquette. And my two pet peeves are deplaning, beach, and the pool. When the plane lands and we're all waiting for the clearance to deplane, simply wait your turn. It is poor etiquette to pile into the aisle and stand ahead of your own row. The proper and, yes, unwritten rule is to simply wait your turn. Think about it. It's like cutting the line. The only time this is acceptable is when someone has a close connection and the flight attendant will make an announcement. Now, for the pool and beach etiquette. What I'm talking about here is saving lounge chairs. It is just rude to get up at 6 in the morning and put towels on lounge chairs and then let them sit unoccupied for hours while those who are ready to lounge and soak up the sun have nowhere to do so. There's a rotation in order here. When you need and are ready for one, take one. When you're done, leave it for the next person. I applaud the cruise lines who have adopted policies to crack down on saving pool chairs. And I think resorts should consider it as well. I'm just saying. This is Javon, and that was your Travel Minute.
And I agree with both of those completely.
Well, you just sit there and you see these towels occupying the chairs, and then those that are walking around trying to find one, and you can't find one. So I just needed to sound off because of my recent trip to Aruba, and I could not find any pool or lounge chairs near the beach or pool.
Well, we have a great show for you today.
We certainly do, and it's combining vacationing and volunteering, and we have a special guest on with us, Lisa Dietlin, who is the president and CEO of Dietlin, and Associates Incorporated. She is a philanthropic agent, one of the country's foremost authorities on entrepreneurial giving, author of Transformational Philanthropy, Entrepreneurs and Nonprofits, published in 2009, and Making a Difference, 365 Tips, Ideas, and Stories to Change Your World, that was published in 2010. Hello, Lisa, and welcome to The Traveling Eye.
Hello. How are you two?
I'm great. She has been busy.
Say, your tip bugs me too. I have many. You know, let's talk about the overhead bins.
Oh, yeah. Oversized luggage, and especially those that are determined to make it fit.
And if the luggage weighs more than you do, you shouldn't be taking it on the trip.
I think my sound off has started something here, and we could go on and on and on because I have a long list of pet peeves, and it sounds like you do too.
I do.
Well, let's get down to it, because I think that this is a world where people don't know a lot about it, but could really make a difference in the world and do something that they really love to do and make a difference at the same time. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you do, because you have a very long list of credentials all about helping people.
I do. They say you should be able to describe your business in 6 words or less, or what you do. And what I do is we help people do philanthropy better. And it's all about helping people make a difference. One of the things throughout my career, I started doing political fundraising and then went over to the nonprofit realm, primarily through public education, higher education institutions, universities, and colleges. And what I continually heard was, I really want to make a difference. I really want to leave something behind. I've left my mark in business. I've been successful. I don't want to leave all my money to my kids, and what can I do? And what I found was that nonprofits were falling short. They knew how to make the transaction. They didn't know how to make the transformation happen. And that's where we step in. We step in and help nonprofits learn how to better interact with donors and those who want to be donors, as well as donors and what their expectations should be of nonprofit organizations.
Well, Lisa, I'm sorry, Javon. It's interesting because you do all of that, but then you find a way to help it through and connect travel with volunteering and putting things together. So what is voluntourism or voluntouring?
Well, it's funny. It's lately it's really caught on, and a lot of people, a recent survey, 38% of people in the United States said they'd like to do this. They'd like to take a voluntour trip, but it's actually been around since the 1950s. And actually, Senator Kennedy, before he was president, when he was talking about what eventually became the Peace Corps, is one of the founders of this movement. The idea of going to a third world or developing country or a place that has a need and immersing yourself in that community and that culture and actually helping make it better and transform that community and the lives of those people. Now, what happened is along the way, the Peace Corps evolved, and it was a 2-year commitment, and most of us at many points in our lives can't stop, put our lives on hold, and for 2 years go and volunteer and give back in a community. But that doesn't mean that spirit of giving back goes away. So it's a volunteering. You go, and it can be for as little as a week or as long as 12 weeks, and there's various organizations that help you achieve your dream of giving back, making a difference, and transforming lives.
Well, as long as I've been in the travel industry and as long as I've known about voluntourism, I had never connected the dots with the Peace Corps. I think that's very interesting, and you're absolutely right that it is difficult to take off 2 years. And I think that may be what gets in the way for a lot of people, is that they think they have to give so much time that they really don't have.
Correct. But most of us want to take a vacation, and some of us feel guilty when we're luxuriating in places where opulence and affluence are running high, and we think, gosh, maybe we should help. Maybe we should find a way to give back, but we don't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. And this is a way to be purposeful about your vacations and to actually say, you know what, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go to a great location I've wanted to always go to, but I'm also going to find a way to give back to that community and maybe learn something that otherwise I wouldn't know.
Well, what are some of the things that someone should know? And I guess that kind of leads to the different types of volunteering or voluntouring that you can do.
Well, first of all, you have to know you're going to work. That's a shock for a lot of people. When you go on a volunteer vacation, don't just focus on the vacation part. You are actually volunteering, and there are structured programs of what you're going to do. Whether you're restoring a temple in India, a historic place, and you're doing painting or restoration work, or cleaning up an ecological situation in South Africa, you're just not going to go to the vineyards in South Africa and tour in India. You're actually going to do some work while you're there. And, there's some structure to these programs. The second thing is you're going to be out of your comfort zone. This is not staying at the, Marriott or the Hyatt or a traditional situation. You might have communal living. You might be hosted with a family. You have to do some research before you go. But most often you're going to be out of your comfort zone. And the third thing you have to know is that you really are going to make a difference. That by committing to do a volunteer vacation, there's time to have fun and time to have that vineyard or do those tours, but you really are going to make a difference and transform people's lives.
Well, for those of us who, in our minds, we really want to do this, but we're novices otherwise. Is there something that you can tell us for the novice, the person who has never done it, thought about doing it? What is there for us to get started?
I think it's a great question. Start small. Don't bite off too much. I would say do a 1-week immersion. Globe Aware is an organization that does these volunteer vacations and service vacations, or even a working holidays, for as little as 1 week. And so I would say start out small and maybe have a buddy go with you. Don't go by yourself. Have a buddy go with you. Pick a place that you would like to visit. One of my secret passions is I would love to have been an archaeologist. I love archaeological digs. So if I could find a buddy or a friend who wanted to go on an archaeological dig, and it could be here domestically, or it could be international, but start small. Don't commit to 2-3 weeks when you've not done this before. Start small and take a buddy with you, and maybe do it to commemorate a special point in your life. I turned 50 last year, and all of us who were turning 50 had special ways to commemorate that year, and many people, when they turn 25 or 30 or 40, want to do something special. Maybe this is what you do special, that you start out small, you give back, you make a difference, and you go to one of your favorite travel destinations.
What are some of the things that you can expect to participate in if you're volunteering?
It depends where you go, but I'll give some broad paint strokes, some broad brush strokes of where it is. You could be teaching English to students, to young children, or to elderly people. You could be building a school in, Argentina. You could be restoring historic landmarks in countries. You could be doing an archaeological dig. You could be restoring a forest preserve. You could be building a well or a water well, or restoring it so that there's water in a town or a community. It really runs the gamut from A to Z of things that communities, when you think about third world and developing communities, what they need. Think about our Habitat for Humanity here in the United States. They are a real good model for people to wrap their minds around. And with college students and high school students when they go on spring break, an alternative to going to the sunny places like Fort Lauderdale or South Padre Island is to actually go to where there's been some devastation because of a tornado or because of, some catastrophic Mother Nature event, and rebuild homes. And you hear about this primarily through houses of worship that, high school students or college students come together and go on spring break, and they actually rebuild homes in a community. That is the sort of participation level that you would be in if you went on one of these volunteer trips. You would be doing something that's restorative, that makes a difference. You'd be immersed in the culture in the community, as the students are who go on these Habitat for Humanity building trips here domestically. And then you also, have a little bit of fun. When you hear the stories from those high school students and those college students, they also had fun.
Well, Lisa, in reading your write-up, some of the things that you've written, you talk about do-good vacation. So can you explain what is the difference between a do-good vacation and volunteering?
Yes, there is a big difference. A do-good vacation is a vacation where you actually go with a group or with an organization and you're raising money. So you might be bicycling across Ireland, and it might be that for every mile you bike or for every city you get to or every county, so much dollars are pledged per mile. It might be that you walk across Spain, that you walk from one destination to the other to raise money for breast cancer, and for every mile you walk, there's a pledge. So you're actually going with an organization, or you're going with friends to raise money for a specific cause. So it might be that you want to tour the castles of Scotland, but you also want to raise money, so you work with a nonprofit organization that says, okay, we're doing this, or we have other people who've done this, or let's put you all together, and instead of just biking from castle to castle in Scotland, you're actually going to raise money for an organization. So it's a little bit different. It's not being immersed and actually having hands-on, but it's doing something that generates awareness or raises dollars.
Well, I hope people, are all ready to walk across Spain. That's a whole lot of steps.
Well, I saw that movie, The Way, with Martin Sheen, and, it's called The Way, and it was about the trail in Spain, and I'm thinking, could I do that? Could I walk along the way?
But some may have marathons or different different races that you can do in different parts of the world as well to kind of help with that, to make your trek along Spain a little bit shorter.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that most races these days, marathons and other races, whether they're half marathons or bikeathons or what have you, have a charitable component. That has really taken off in the last 5 to 10 years. There is a charitable component, and it's not just to raise money for that race, but nonprofit organizations as well as the race have figured out a way to use that event as a means to generate interest and raise funds for the organizations that are doing good in the community.
Now, what is the typical ratio of time as far as time spent working versus vacation?
Well, it usually is 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's what, the granddaddy of all these volunteer companies, Global Volunteers, does. They require you to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and you have the weekends off. There are others that will have you work in the mornings and part of the afternoons and have the afternoon and evening off. Or there are some that, will have you work in the afternoons and you have the morning off. But there really has to be a commitment of time. Most of the time it is either the 8 hours a day with the weekend off, or you work, 5 or 6 hours a day and have the afternoons and evenings off. But that's every day of the week.
All right. Now, all of this volunteering and vacationing and stuff like that and giving of yourself, is there a tax deduction that you can take at all or in part or something for doing all this great volunteering?
The answer is yes.
Are you kidding?
I'm not, but it's qualified. First of all, I'm not a tax advisor, so what I would recommend is people who are listening and their ears are perking up, one of the first calls you have to make is to your financial planner, your tax advisor, who has that information at hand. A lot of it depends on the country of origin and their tax codes, and of course in the U.S. we do allow for tax deductions for charitable donations. So you have to know that there is that ability to take the deductions, but there's some criteria, and they're getting stricter as this is raising in popularity. The IRS is getting a little bit stricter, but there are ways to get charitable deduction for this volunteering.
Well, that is always good. It's always good news because it's another incentive to give of your time and of your money. And just like if you're donating anything throughout the year, I'm sure that it will help along the way, but it's also a benefit and I think an incentive for people to want to do something. Now, if you're looking for a trip or a volunteer or volunteering program that you want to be a part of, how can you connect with an organization?
Well, I always like to say let your fingers do the walking on the internet. There's lots of great organizations that can be found on the internet. Three or four of my favorite are, of course, I've already spoke about Global Volunteers, which, as we say, is the granddaddy of the volunteer movement. They've been around a long time, and they actually partner with, the United Nations and UNICEF, and they are about providing the basics, food, clothing, and shelter in areas of the world that are having challenges and need our help. So you think third world and developing countries. That's a great one. Global Aware, again, is one that does everything from the Andes and to Nepal to Argentina, and that's where you can have the 1 week immersions. They have longer ones, but they really focus on the short term, getting you started. Cross-Cultural Solutions is another one. They've been around about 20 years, and they work in 12 countries. And what they focus on is making sure that you have free time in the evenings and in the afternoons. And they really have programs geared toward high school students. So if you want to do that, most of these programs are for adults, but there are some that are family-friendly and younger people friendly. And then the last one I would share is United Planet. And they focus on, their vision says, be the change in the world. And they are flexible, and they like, to build volunteer vacations around specific individuals' interests. So they're flexible with their start dates, and that's what's really interesting. Some of them, like Global Volunteers, have it prescribed, and you have to drop in. Like, here's when this trip is starting, here's when it's ending, here's how much it costs, here's what you'll be expected to do. But this United Planet allows you to say, I'd like to go to China on February 15th, and and they'll work with you in building it. So those are four that are highly reputable. But what I would also caution is, just because an organization that you find on the internet has a .org does not mean it's a 501c3. Just because its URL might have that .org, you really have to ask and do your homework. Ask for that, 501c3 determination letter. Ask for that information, because for it to be even viable to be a tax deduction, it has to be a bona fide 501c3 organization.
Now, are there some, I'm sure as far as security measures and things of that nature, as far as the volunteers are concerned, what can people expect to go through as far as I guess your credentials and the organizations verifying or checking you out as a volunteer?
They do. While we say investigate the organization, you also want to make sure that, they're investigating you, that you're finding the right fit. An organization that's very reputable will send you an audit, will send you a questionnaire, will be asking you questions about your skill set, about what you're able to do. If you have not exercised in 25 years, probably walking up a mountain carrying supplies to build a school probably isn't realistic without some conditioning and some work being done there. My stepfather at one point wanted to go to Russia, and he had a leg amputated. And when I told him there weren't elevators in the Russian hotels, most likely, he was dumbfounded, because his vision was like, well, it'll be just like it is in America. I said to him, no, it really won't. And so, you want an organization that's really going to challenge you and question you, what are your skill sets? What can you do? Are you physically disabled in any way? Do you, need access to medical? Do you have a medical condition? So while you're investigating the organization, you want to make sure that they're asking questions of you and that you're comfortable and that the fit with the organization is a match.
Well, Lisa, what are some of the good basic recommendations or tips in planning or doing a do-good vacation or volunteering?
Well, the first thing is to pick the right organization. Figure out what do you want to do, where do you want to go, and how long do you want to stay. That's the first thing to figure out. So, do a little bit of your research. Think about, what about your living conditions? Is communal okay, or do you need your own space? Then think about, do you want to use your professional skills, or do you want to learn a new skill? So I've met engineers who want to go and build houses, or they want to dig a well, or a sewage drainage situation. And I've met other people say, gosh, I don't want to use my skills. I want to learn something new. So think about that as part of one of the top tips. Think about how much it costs. Ask those tough questions. You have to pay to volunteer, and most people are shocked by that. These aren't free vacations. You have to pay. You have to pay for your airline ticket, and then you pay a fee so that the lodging and the food and the transportation, the local transportation is there. As I said, investigate the organization. If you're going to a country that might be volatile, check with the Department of State. Also check with the country if they've heard of the nonprofit organization, if they've heard of this organization. A lot of people, it's important. How many people are we going to help? Is it we're helping one person or 100 people? Think about the impact on the community and explore that. And what do they have a track record, this organization? I also recommend don't overlook the small nonprofit organizations working in this space. Well, Greg Mortensen, who wrote 3 Cups of Tea, got a bad rap. Can you imagine going on a trip with him as the founder as he was building schools, or attempting or saying he was building schools? I mean, the experience of traveling with somebody who is so passionate about a nonprofit they have founded would be much different than one of the larger, nonprofit organizations that I've mentioned that actually plan these trips. Pay attention if there's any warning signs. If you're seeing bad feedback on the website, bad comments, that you really want to make sure that that the experiences are good. And regardless, if it's a good experience or bad experience, what you want to make sure is that the organization has good customer service. We've all been to diners and restaurants where we've gotten really bad food, and it all depends on the waiter or the waitress and the manager and the owner and how they treat us, whether we go back or not. And, so you can have a bad experience, you can have picked poorly, you can have thought, oh gosh, this isn't for me. But if the people give you really good customer service and the nonprofit is paying attention to your needs, you'll probably recommend it and go back again and try again.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much. And this is a wealth of information.
Really.
And Lisa's also giving us a lot of tips and information that we will put on our blogs as well. Are there any closing comments or information that you would like to impart?
Well, what I would say is, yes, that when I go to bed at night and before I put my head on my pillow, I always ask myself, did I help somebody today? Did I make a difference? And I would encourage the listeners to think about that. And whether you're actually doing a volunteer vacation or do good vacation, no matter where you go, you can do good in the world. And even if it's, you're going to your local museum, a kind word, a smile, a holding open a door, picking up a piece of trash, or finding out how you can volunteer locally at your local park or your local waterfront, your local beach, and clean up and join efforts to, make your community a place where other people want to come and visit. All those things matter, and then when you put your head on the pillow at the end of the day, you'll say, yeah, I did make a difference today, and I did help someone.
That is so awesome. Before we go, if I could just ask you real quickly, what trip affected you the most in volunteering?
What trip affected me the most in volunteering? That is a great question. A lot flood to mind, a lot come to mind. I spent part of my youth in the West, and we would often go into the national parks like Yellowstone and Glacier, and there were always opportunities to give back and to volunteer and to help and to make a difference. So I would have to say, when I think back, and it's probably through rose-colored glasses, but it was, going into Yellowstone Park in the winter with my family, with my dad, and seeing what we could do to help. And that was at the time when, it was controversial about snowmobiles being allowed into the park and what it did to the animals. And I would have to say, when I think back, that's the one when you ask the question that immediately popped to mind.
What's your website, Lisa, if anyone wants to get any more information about you and what you do and and one of your 5 books?
Right. Yeah, the 5th one's out next week. It's www.lmdietlin, that's D as in David, IETLIN.com. I'd be happy to answer any of your listeners' questions and continue the conversation.
Thank you for giving us the idea and the information that we need to make a difference in the world through voluntourism. We really do appreciate that. So again, that's Lisa Dietlin, and that's lmdietlin.com.
And when we come back, we're going to tell you how you can go to Punta Cana with us. You're listening to The Traveling Eye. I'm Bonnie DeShawn.
And I'm Javon Harley on HUR Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141.